The Nintendo Switch is one of the most talked about things in gaming right now. A lot of that's because when it comes to the current model Nintendo Switch, there's just too many issues that we're having, such as if a game is able to run at 30 FPS, the games just look very muddy or just blurry overall. Not only that, most of the games cannot run 60 FPS. So many of us are just wanting a brand new, more powerful Nintendo Switch. Well, today there was kind of a big leak that almost confirms a lot of the rumors when it came to the Nintendo Switch, and as well as showcase some of the parts as well as what it might look like. So let's go ahead and talk about that leak. The first thing we're going to talk about is pretty much the design of this new Nintendo Switch. Now, we don't have an official name for the new Switch, so a lot of people are still speculating that it will be Nintendo Switch 2, which I do kind of agree, because when it comes to the current CEO, I feel like he's a lot more conservative, and not only that, he's just more, I don't know, more business-like. He's not like Iwata, where they were inventing some pretty interesting names, including Wii U, because Wii U is kind of interesting, but he's not like that. So I feel like it's just going to be plain old Nintendo Switch. Me personally, I thought Super Nintendo Switch would be pretty awesome. I think a lot of us would like to see that, just, you know, a retro throwback to the NES, to the Super Nintendo transition, but I doubt that's what we're gonna get. Hardware wise, everything pretty much looks as you would, well, not really expect it actually. It looks exactly like the current model Nintendo Switch, but there are some minor differences, such as the screen size. The screen size is actually a lot bigger overall, looking to be at 8 inches, which is pretty nice. So for those of you who really do want a bigger Switch and you feel like the Switch OLED 7-inch screen is too small, there you have it. Now you have an 8-inch Nintendo Switch. But that's not the only thing that's changed. When it comes to the Joy-Cons, they also look a little bit different. I do feel like design-wise, they look more rounded on the edges, maybe not. Maybe it could be just the CAD rendering that we're seeing here looks a lot more rounded. But they do, to me at least, look a little bit more rounded compared to the current Nintendo Switch. The other thing we can see is there is no rail system when it comes to the Switch, at least from what it looks like. It does look like these Joy-Cons would actually connect magnetically, which could be better if the magnets hold correctly. And I know a lot of people have had issues with the rails on the current Nintendo Switch, such as myself. I actually had an issue where basically the right Joy-Con would just not hold in place. So as you're playing, it'll just lift up slightly, and then you'll get the disconnection or reconnect the controller to the Nintendo Switch message that pops up, and it was kind of very annoying. This happened mainly on my original Nintendo Switch. I did not get that same issue with the OLED, but to be fair, when it comes to my OLED Switch, I did use other Joy-Cons, and I have swapped out my Joy-Cons quite often. Now, if we take a look more at the Joy-Cons, what we can really see is that basically it is keeping the same form factor in terms of the left side having more buttons rather than an actual traditional D-pad. And to me, that kind of sucks, because I really hoped for a D-pad when it came to the Nintendo Switch. Maybe there'll be an option. Maybe when you go ahead to purchase the new Nintendo Switch, you'll get an option to go ahead and purchase one that has a traditional D-pad or buy one that has the buttons. I do get it, because it is kind of neat that you can use the Joy-Cons as 2 controllers instead of just one. But I feel like most people are just using it as 1 controller. And that D-pad to me is kind of really necessary, because when it came to playing games such as Super Mario Bros. Wonder, well, you can go ahead and see that it's pretty difficult to play with just the buttons. For me, I actually played most of it on the Nitro deck, and that was the best way to play the game, because I actually had an actual D-pad. But at the same time, this is going to give third-party companies kind of, I don't know, a lift, I guess, in terms of people wanting to go ahead and find something else. You have like Hori, for example, with the Split Pad Pro and the Split Pad Compact. They were very popular because it did give you a traditional D-pad, with the downside being they weren't battery powered, so it kind of drained a little bit more battery from your Nintendo Switch. Now, it wasn't really that bad, and I won't say it's too noticeable, but for a lot of people, it might be noticeable. We do also see that the SL and SR buttons, which would be the top shoulder buttons, they do look, at least to me, they look a little bit bigger when you compare it to the original. I guess to make it easier to press those buttons, because if you ever use the Joy-Con sideways, yeah, it's kind of hard to press those buttons. So games that pretty much needed SL and SR, yeah, they were just very hard to play because it was very hard to hit those buttons. Now here's also a picture of the inside of the new Nintendo Switch. You can kind of see pretty much the motherboard placement as well as where the battery will be. The battery, a lot of people are saying that it looks pretty small and they don't think they're going to get much out of that. In my opinion, I think Nintendo will be smart. There are ways to kind of get custom batteries. For example, you can kind of double stack it. So put 2 batteries on top of each other. The downside, I guess, to that would be heat. Yeah, the batteries will pretty much heat up unless you have some type of thermal padding or something in between the 2 stacked batteries. But I'm pretty sure we're still going to get pretty decent battery life. Honestly, I'm not expecting more than 3 hours, but I would like to hit like that 5-hour mark that the OLED has. I do feel that after playing with the Switch OLED and, you know, just having the Steam Deck OLED, actually, it's kind of hard to go to a device that just has, I don't know, less than 3 hours of battery life. I just feel like we need to hit at least that 5-hour mark. Not only that, let's not forget that this will be an ARM CPU, therefore it's going to be a little bit more power efficient, so we should technically be able to get a little bit more battery life for, you know, I would say similar performance, I would say, depending on what we're getting at, but we have yet to see. This is also a custom CPU by NVIDIA, something that's brand new that we haven't really seen before. So we have yet to know what the results would actually be. We can also see what looks like to be 2 USB-C ports. The report does also confirm that there will be 2 USB-C ports, one at the bottom and the other one at the top. I assume the bottom one will be for like docking, and you can probably still charge off of that as well. And the top one, I assume, is, well, I don't know, I guess just for charging. Not exactly sure why you would need a second one. The top does make sense because, you know, if you're playing your Nintendo Switch, typically you had to use the bottom one, and that can make the cord bend and stuff like that. It was very annoying. Not only that, if you do have it in tabletop mode, yeah, that USB-C is kind of, well, you know, not being used. It can't be used, rather, because it's covered up by the table. So having a top one also does make sense. But on the flip side, it's like, why have 2 USB-C ports? I know some devices like the ROG Ally X, for example, or even the Legion Go, they do have 2 USB-C ports. And for those, it makes a little bit more sense because you can use one, for example, for an eGPU, while the other one could be used for maybe a flash drive or some type of hub. But when it comes to the Nintendo Switch, as of right now, we don't really know what it would accept, if it will accept any type of flash drives or anything, which I doubt because it is a home console after all. And from here, I'm actually going to read all the details that were in this leak as well, because there's a lot of shipping information that showed up. So there's shipping details in terms of what parts are being moved around for the Nintendo Switch. Basically, you'll have the console itself. There's a left and right Joy-Con, also a dock. As far as the configuration goes, CPU and GPU model, there is a model number, and of course, all of this will be on the screen as well. When it comes to RAM, it looks like we're getting 2 6 gigs of RAM dual channel slots. They are LPDDR5X at 7500 mega transfers, which seems like an upgrade. We're going to get 12 gigs of RAM, which is pretty neat. I believe the current Nintendo Switch only has 6, so we are doubling our RAM, which will be useful for sure when it comes to just modern games in general. Now there is flash memory, it looks like at 256 gigabyte UFS 3.1 at 2100 megabits per second. In terms of the read speed, I assume it's both read and write would be 2100. Audio chip models, there's an NFC reader as well, built-in microphone. So this will have a built-in microphone. I don't think the Nintendo Switch has one. I don't remember. I'm gonna have to double check that and see if it does, because I definitely don't remember the Nintendo Switch having a built-in mic there. But if the current one doesn't and this one does, maybe that means we're gonna actually get in-console voice chat. Who knows? Who knows? Dual cooling fans, so there will be 2 fans in this, which is pretty neat. And then of course it goes over the video signal, which supports HDMI 2.1, which is still very interesting. The only reason you would support 2.1 is if you want to go higher than 60 hertz at 4K. But who knows? I mean, I guess we still don't know the power of this current Switch, so we don't know what it will output to. And of course there was the network chip, which really doesn't, at least according to what I see here, doesn't really tell us if it's Wi-Fi 6 or Wi-Fi 6E or even Wi-Fi 7. Doesn't say anything like that, at least not that I can see. Looks like there is a gigabit Ethernet chip in there as well, and a couple of microcontrollers. and video game console protective case model, and then speakers on them as well. So that is pretty much the full list of what's pretty much people are getting when it comes to the new Nintendo Switch. In my opinion, I think this is very interesting, and I do feel this is real. Main reason being, we are so close to the launch of the new Nintendo Switch. We do know we're gonna get it sometime next year. As far as when this announcement will be, we don't know. When it comes to distributing the Switch, or not even, just starting the manufacturing process, you would figure they would want to get a head start in it sooner rather than later, meaning they probably already have all the parts they need and pretty much every model number they need. So from there, they're going to send out these logs letting people know, hey, this is what we need. They're going to send it to whoever's going to go ahead and pretty much assemble the Nintendo Switch and go from there. And that's how I feel like this leak actually happened. The original leak was on some Chinese forums, and that's how people were able to go ahead and find this. And of course, it went from Reddit, and then everybody else started talking about it. So I do feel this leak is pretty real. Not only that, a lot of people have mentioned some of this stuff throughout the past few years in terms of the specs and what it's going to be, and a lot of it just is pretty accurate. Of course, there is the flip side to think that, yeah, because so many people have speculated on the new Nintendo Switch, have heard rumors on what this new Switch would have, that this leak just goes ahead and confirms rumors we already know. But I don't know, I do feel it's kind of real, and I do expect some type of Switch 2 announcement, or a new Nintendo Switch, or whatever it's going to be called. I do expect an announcement sometime later on this year. Whatever the case may be, I will definitely cover it. The more I hear about stuff, or the more I find out information, I will also cover it on this channel. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and let me know, do you feel that this leak is real, or do you think this is just something that everybody's hyping up and it's not actually real, it's just false information? Like I said, personally, I do feel this leak is real, and I'm not a big one to go ahead and believe a lot of leaks, but there are some leaks that I do feel have some, credit to, and I think this one is pretty legit here. My name is James. I'll catch you guys next time.